Good evening, it's time for the evening news at 5 here on Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. Coming up, government calls GLOSAC to rescind decision to strike over Adumboche's appointment. Minority leader Alexander Fenyomakin threatens legal action against oral findings if his name is included. Peace Council mission schools reach consensus on hijab use. And on the foreign front, Netherlands to return stolen Benin bronze to Nigeria. We have this and many more coming up in the bulletin. My name is Nana Ama Nyamike. Buying in other news in detail. Felix Kwasi Ofosu, spokesperson for President John Dramani Mahama and Minister of State for Government Communication, has refuted claims by the New Patriotic Party that the current government was able to service debt payment due to buffers they left in its previous administration. Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, former finance minister, has said that the NPP government strategically built buffers in Ghana's debt reserves account to ensure the continuous servicing of the country's debt obligations. This came after President John Dramani Mahama's directive to the Finance Minister Dr. Kasala Tuforsen to honor the fourth coupon payment to domestic debt exchange program bondholders. The Karaga MP noted that while the current administration is taking credit for the payment, it was important to recognize that previous NPP government had already put in place financial mechanisms to support these obligations. At a press briefing in Accra on Wednesday, February 19, Kwasi Ofosu categorically stated that this narrative is untrue and provided details to the support. Now, away from that particular story, moving on to another stories, the government has called on the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana to reconsider a decision to go on strike following the appointment of Samuel Adumboche, Registrar of the Birth and Death Registry. Felix Kwasi Ofosu, spokesperson for the President John Dramani Mahama and Minister of State for Government Communications, made the appeal during a press briefing in Accra on Wednesday, February 19. He acknowledged the importance of strike actions as a mechanism for workers to drive home their demands, but emphasized that in this instance there was no sufficient basis for such actions. Now, the minority leader Alexander Fenyomakin has threatened legal actions against individuals involved in the Operation Recover or Loot initiative if his name or property appears in the committee's findings. His warnings comes amid reports that the property he has owned since 2006 was scrutinized under the operation. He claimed that drones were flown over his property, which shares a boundary with the police academy, in attempt to link it to state land. Speaking in an interview monitored by Windy News today, Mr. Fenyomakin accused the ruling National Democratic Congress of using oral to target political opponents instead of focusing on government. Sophia Akofo, former Chief Justice and now a member of the Council of State, has defended her inclusion in the advisory body, emphasizing her qualifications and independence. She is among the 31-member Council of State chaired by Edwardo Ajaho. Speaking to journalists after the swearing in at the Jubilee House in Accra on Tuesday, February 18, she highlighted the Council's advisory role and reaffirmed her commitment to providing honest and impartial guidance. Now, the National Peace Council has reached a consensus with all mission schools in Ghana on the use of hijabs, paving the way of enhanced religious tolerance in educational institutions across the country. The Executive Secretary of the NPC, George Amo, said the agreement was reached after extensive engagement with heads of those schools and other stakeholders to address concerns about religious expression in schools. Mr. Amu made this disclosure on Monday in Accra during a familiarization visit by Mr. Mohammed Mubarak Muntaka, the Minister of Interior. However, Mr. Amu noted that the implementation was stalled by various challenges including financial constraints and administrative barriers. The new agreement extends beyond hijab use and includes guidelines on religious practices such as fasting and the display of religious artifacts in schools. It aims to strike a balance between upholding student right to religious oppression and maintaining institutional discipline. Mr. Amos said the GAS had been part of the drafting process, but formal approval was needed from the new leadership before the document could be publicly launched. He expressed optimism that once it's in effect, the agreement would help prevent future dispute over religious practices in schools and promote a culture of mutual respect and coexistence. Mr. Muntaka, on his part, lauded the NPC for their tireless effort towards sustaining Ghana's peace. He assured them of his support to enhance their capacity to carry out their mandate. The National Union of Ghana Students has announced plans to stage a demonstration against the West African Examinations Council over the withholding of 10,500 results from the 2024 West African Senior School Certificate Examination. Despite the overall success of the exams, WAEC flagged several cases of malpractice, including photocopying answers, smuggling mobile phones, and collusion in exams halls. However, NUS has criticized WAEC's handling of the matter, arguing that thousands of students have been unfairly affected by the cancellations and delays. The protest is scheduled for Tuesday, February 25, starting at 9 o'clock a.m. with participants expected to gather at the Obra Sport at Kwame Nkrumah Circle, Accra. In a statement, NUS President Daniel Koliboche confirmed that the Greater Accra Regional Police Command had been notified. NUS has called on all affected students and stakeholders to join the protest in a united stand for justice. Assembly members in the 26 electoral areas of the Amansia South District of the Ashanti region have threatened to boycott the confirmation of the president's nominee for District Chief Executive. They are unhappy the District Coordinating Director Nana Opoku Ababio swore in some government appointees into Assembly without their presence. Assembly member for Manso Nkran electoral area, Joseph Anchiprempe, who led the press conference, said it's unfair and disrespectful to the assembly members for such an exercise to be conducted on their blind side. The coordinating director for Amansia South District, Nana Opoku Ababio, however, explained that a letter was issued informing the assembly members of the president appointment to the district. The Nanumba North municipality in the northern region is witnessing a rise in typhoid cases, primarily due to the poor sanitation and unsafe water sources. For days, residents have struggled with a severe water shortage, forcing them to rely on the Wapu Dam, which has been deemed unwholesome. The situation is worsened by widespread open defecation, further contaminating water sources. Food vendors who depend on water tanker service face heightened risk of contamination, raising concerns among health officials. In response, environmental health officers, in collaboration with the Ghana Health Service, have launched a screening and vaccination exercise targeting food vendors to curb the spread of the disease. Municipal Environmental Officer for Nanumba North, Al-Hassan Abdul Somed, said the initiative aims to immunize 700 food vendors, warning for consequences for those who fail to comply. Health officials have also intensified awareness campaigns, urging residents to adopt safe food and water consumption practices to help contain the outbreak. Now, access to affordable internet is crucial in today's digital economy, yet Ghanaians continue to pay relatively high data costs in the sub-region, despite Ghana being ranked second for lowest average price per gigabyte. But what is driving these high costs, and how can data be made affordable? Mobile data is essential for business operations, education, and social interactions. However, many Ghanaians, especially those who do not take advantage of promotional packages from telecom providers, and are paying significantly more for data. According to the UK-based research firm Cable.com, the average cost of 1 gigabyte of data in Ghana is $0.40, while the National Communications Authority estimates at a much higher average of $0.96. Speaking in an interview monitored by Wendy News, the chief executive of the Chamber of Telecommunications, Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, emphasized the need for a balanced approach to addressing structural issues within the telecom sector to ensure fairness for both consumers and network operators. He added that lowering charges would ultimately benefit telecom providers by increasing data usage. Meanwhile, the Minister of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, Sam Nate George, has inaugurated a committee tasked with developing a roadmap to reduce data costs in Ghana. The committee has 14 days to present its recommendations to make mobile data more affordable and accessible to all citizens. Now let's go to the international arena. The Netherlands says it will return more than 100 Benin bronze that British troops looted from Nigeria in the late 19th century and which ended up in the Dutch Museum. Thousands of these culturally significant sculptures and caverns were stolen during the violent destruction of Benin City in modern-day Nigerian's Edo State in 1897. The treasures were sold to some to private collectors and others to museums like the Weri Museum in the Netherlands, which has displayed these artifacts for decades. The return of the 119 artifacts is the largest repatriation of Benin antiquities, said Oligbe Holloway, Director General for Nigeria's National Commission for Museums and Monuments. Despite the name, not all the statues are made of bronze. They include figurines, tax sculptures of Benin's rulers, and an ivory marks. They were made during between the 15th and 19th century. A transfer of agreement is due to be signed today. Mr. Holloway added that he hoped this would set a good example for other countries. And finally, Donald Trump has taken aim at Ukraine after its president, Vladimir Zelensky, said it was a surprise his country had not been invited to talks in Saudi Arabia on ending the war with Russia. Earlier on Tuesday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Riyadh for the first high-level face-to-face talks between the two countries since the invasion, and agreed to appoint teams to start negotiating the end of war. Lavrov said his country would not accept peacekeeping forces from NATO countries in Ukraine under any peace deal, a proposal raised at a meeting of European members of NATO in Paris on Monday. European NATO states who remain committed to supporting Ukraine against Russia have been smartened at being sidelined by Trump's unilateral peace initiative, which reserved the resolute pro-Ukraine policy of his predecessor as President Joe Biden. Now, before we end the news, a recap of the stories that made headlines. Government calls GLOSAC to rescind decision to strike over Adams Botry's appointment. Minority leader Alexander Afenyomarkin threatens legal action against oral findings if his name is included. Peace Council mission schools reach consensus on hijab use. And on the foreign front, Netherlands to return stolen Benin bronze to Nigeria. And that will be all for the news at 5 here on Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. My name is Nana Ama Nyamike Baini. Up next, a sport.